Nobody prepares you for this part. You did everything right, you work hard, you built something real. A career, a role, a reputation, an identity that meant something. And now you're outgrowing it. And instead of feeling proud, instead of feeling free, you feel this low, unnamed ache. This strange sense of loss for something that you're actually choosing to leave. And because you're choosing it, you think that you're not allowed to grieve it. And that's what I would like to talk about today. If you're new here, hello and welcome. My name is Dr. Maria Martinez, and this is the Inner Authority Project. Here we talk about all things transformation, identity, and inner authority for women over 50. And today we're talking about becoming the woman who you really are. Let me say something out loud that a lot of people don't say. You can grieve the loss of the version of yourself that you no longer are, that no longer fits you. Because the truth is that grief doesn't require regret. It just requires that whatever we are grieving mattered. And the woman that you built yourself into, she mattered. She deserves to be honored and recognized and celebrated before she is released. Here's what I've come to realize about this type of loss. What we're mourning is not the role itself. It's more about what it meant, what it represented. Because see, the thing is that role, it meant that you were competent. It meant that you were needed. It meant that you had a place. A clear answer, and that clarity, even though it was costly, it felt solid. It felt like solid ground. And now that ground is shifting. And that part of you keeps reaching back to that version of yourself who always knew exactly where she stood. That's not weakness, my friend. That's a completely human response to losing something that actually anchored you, even if that anchor was also somewhat of a weight. During my work, going through this transition and talking to a lot of other women in their 50s and their 60s, I have also come to realize that this type of grief comes with three different and specific feelings. Feelings that we often tend to want to push away. The first feeling is relief that is followed very closely by guilt. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes underneath that grief, there's relief. Relief that you no longer have to perform that role anymore. Relief that the pressure is lifting. Relief that you can try and do something different. And then almost immediately we get this feeling, this heaviness, this guilt. How can I be relieved about something that I worked so hard for? I know, right? And the answer is because you're human. Relief and grief are not opposites. They can live together. Let them. The second feeling is anger. And not everyone feels this one, but some of you will know exactly what I'm talking about. There's an anger that comes from realizing that the identity that cost you so much was also shaped by other people's expectations, by what was available to you or what was acceptable, by who you had to become to survive in a system that wasn't built for you. And when you start to outgrow it, you can find yourself grieving something that wasn't really you to begin with. So that anger is information. It's not something to indulge in endlessly. And here's what I want you to think about. It does deserve a moment of acknowledgement. We don't want to dwell on it, yet we want to pause and acknowledge it. I work hard for something that was partly someone else's definition of success, and I'm allowed to feel that. So that can sting when you realize that what you became was because of somebody else, okay? But nonetheless, that was your role, that's who you became. So that is worth celebrating. And feeling number 3 is love. And this is the one that surprises a lot of people, because somewhere beneath that readiness to outgrow, to become that next version of ourselves, to move forward, there's genuine love for who you were, who showed up, who figured things out, who built something from relatively nothing, who kept going when it was hard. She deserves your love, not just your release. You don't have to be in a hurry to get over her. You can honor her on the way out. Friend, I want to make an important distinction here, because I don't want you to use this video as permission to stay in that grief indefinitely. There's a difference between moving through grief and setting up camp. Moving through it feels like naming it, honoring, recognizing, acknowledging it, while also slowly moving through it and making room for what's to come. On the other hand, getting stuck looks like using that grief as evidence, as a reminder of everything that you didn't like, that did not go well, perhaps even of the mistakes that you made, which in turn makes that loss almost an argument for the place that you're in or the decisions that you're made. So in essence, it almost plays against your own growth. If you find yourself going back and back for this story, for that narrative, rehearsing the loss rather than navigating through it and processing it, I want you to pause, because that's usually not grief talking, that's fear. And that distinction is something that we have to talk about, because the path forward isn't denial, but it's also not in the past. Here's what I love for you to do tonight. You know, I love journaling, and I love really taking time to meditate and to reflect and to really sit with yourself. I want you to pause for a moment and consider which is one of the identities, the roles that I am letting go of, that I am outgrowing. And what I'd like you to do is to quietly to yourself, you can write it down, you can think about it, or you can speak it up. You can say, that woman, she did a good job. She did a good job, and I am proud of her. That's it. Not ceremony, not a big chapter in a book, not a process, just honest acknowledgement, because she did great work and she deserves to be honored, she deserves to be recognized, and she deserves for us to be grateful for her. If you're in the middle of this type of identity transitions and movements, I have something that you might want to use right now, and that is the Inner Authority Jumpstart Guide. The link is on my description, but I'm also going to add a link to the comments below. I'd love for you to download it and start working on this identity, because remember that it's okay to grieve and it's okay to move forward. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. This is Dr. Maria Martinez saying goodbye for now.